Let's jump in there.
Hey guys.
Hey there. And you are?
Everyone, this is Tony Richardson. Jihan Tony Richardson. We're over at Capital Conquest.
How you guys doing?
Good
Wanted
morning.
to jump in and say hello. And,
Morning, guys. Morning.
And
Nice to be here
you're
among some talented individuals.
once we get past the the seminar you're running, you're welcome to join us any Saturday morning.
it was inviting you to the Saturday morning sessions.
Okay.
Okay. But
Saturday morning, I'll see you guys.
Not
Yeah,
this
I mean,
Saturday, just any Saturday, whenever they do it.
we're a very friendly group, and we've taken out everybody's fangs. So no. No, we're very, I say it's different martial arts, and we do manage to work together. And Tony, where's your video?
I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Okay.
Sorry
Lower
about that.
left. Lower left on some screens, Tony.
Yes, sir. It's telling me I'm having a problem.
You figured that out without it telling you that, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's get going here. Our first topic today is what makes a good sensei, what makes a good dojo. They're both listed together, but and I know they're interconnected with each other. But got someone else joining you?
Yeah,
Darren?
Sensei, hold on right now. Let's see here. Let me get this back. There we go.
Oh,
All right, this is Neil Dargano. Is that a
hey, fellas.
Did I
Good
say that
morning.
right?
Yes.
Morning.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And both of these two are very talented martial artists, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, as well as some other things. And they're good friends of mine, as well as many people on here that's good friends of mine. We have Sensei Kirby,
Sensei
here with
Kirby.
Dave
Wow.
Clark right here out of Tampa. And then everybody else could introduce themselves. That's the two people that I'm very close to right there. So, well, yeah.
It's an
One of
honor
these two that
to meet you, gentlemen. I spoke to Kirby Sensei last year. I have a couple of your books going back, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago. But it's an honor, and we really enjoy our time with Darren. So thank you for sharing him with us.
Yeah,
But it's a pleasure, and it's an honor.
Darren is a fantastic person. He's a very giving person, and I can't say too much more positive about him. I mean, he is just a great person to know, very talented, very knowledgeable, and he'll be a really great asset for you today. So
Yeah.
Good. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So let's go ahead.
There we go.
It'd be nice to meet in person one day, but thank you, Darren. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but there now.
Okay. Okay, what makes this? I mean, instead of doing both of these, to say good morning, Tony.
Good morning, sir.
The beards and no beards are tied up.
That's a good one.
Three variations of a goatee. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Three goateed sensei. Anyway, no.
I like that one.
Where you can.
Goatee sensei. Wow, I like that.
Okay, and I'll be back in just a moment.
While he's gone, I will tell you, the bearded ones, that when I see you, I want to say the word grasshopper for some reason.
Oh,
This
You
is,
guys explain that?
this is insane. Kim? Good morning. Can you, I'm on a Zoom meeting. Can you call Mom?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
We have Hanshi Terrian coming in now. We have Hanshi Terrian coming in.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Boy, there's
morning.
some familiar faces there. We're having one hell of a martial art day, and we miss you guys.
Oh,
Next year, maybe?
We'd be there if we could.
Maybe.
I know. I wanted to say hello. We have over 1,000 people training this afternoon, so I got to get out there and start everything off. But thank you for all you do, and hopefully we'll get together at the next one.
Very good. Okay, have fun.
Thank you.
I've dealt with 200 or 300.
Bye-bye.
I've dealt with 200 or 300 at once, and that's absolute insanity. So, good luck. You'll see every variation under the sun. Okay, let's get back to the topic. Okay,
11:07.
what makes a good sensei?
That's a topic.
Right here. Right here.
Oh, I know that.
That makes a good sense.
This is for people who have no idea what a good sensei is, or have their own opinion. Anyone want to? I mean, I've got 4 or 5 characteristics, but
They'll start talking about it, what they think.
okay, I'll just list them and see where this goes. Maybe it won't go anywhere. Mutual respect, interested students, reinforcement of positive behavior by students, competence and technical knowledge, and I will add in there a willingness to say I don't know, and other factors. So do we want to do anything with this, or do we want to just,
Can you add one to the list?
you want to add something to the list, or?
I think it's really important, just the passion for your art. People can see that if you really, really love your art,
Okay,
that's that can be contagious, I guess.
Absolutely. I want to throw in a single word, loyalty.
yeah,
Demonstrated loyalty.
that is, I mean, that's, for those of us that are sensei, that's what carries us through. I think,
I would like to add a great deal of a sense of integrity.
okay, and that's an expectation of a martial artist, and I don't know whether that goes back to the old Kung Fu TV series with what's his name,
David Carradine.
David Carradine, you could have said it. Yeah.
who?
David Carradine.
David Carradine. Yeah, I don't know whether it goes back to that or other philosophical teachings, but yeah, if you run into a sensei, there's an assumption that this person is someone with extremely high integrity, and so anything else that makes a good sensei? Okay,
It rounds it all up pretty good.
yeah, I mean,
Qualities, it.
what is integrity?
Sensei, on your material and also on our dojo, we've got the triad, respect, integrity, and humility. And it's interesting, and just to make an observation, if you truly have any one of those, you have the other two. And
Okay,
if you do not have one of those, you do not have the other two.
okay,
So they are, in a sense, three qualities that are very much intertwined. Those people who display those all three are capable of the word I mentioned earlier, and that is loyalty. And that's huge in my book. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's looking, maybe
Right.
especially when no one's looking.
okay,
Humility is the very opposite of arrogance and uppity, and respect goes without saying. But on my list, above our fireplace, we got 2 swords set like this for decades, and the two swords are a symbol of loyalty, which is why they're there. And throughout my life, I've found that the people that have my back are loyal. And when I've got someone else's back, they recognize me as loyal. And the loyalty can extend to students and then back to a sensei.
Okay.
I will say too that the best classes I've ever witnessed, I've ever observed, the senseis show great respect and deference to their students because they expect it coming back. So there's not this, I got my thumbs in my belt with my feet spread as far apart as I can make them spread. And I stand there like I am the second coming of, you mentioned David Carradine.
You mean you're not the all high poobah?
There you go. There you go. And we've all been to a class where you've got somebody in front like that, and you go, "Okay, I'm ready to leave."
Okay. Yeah, there are people like that, and they it's unfortunate. I know when I taught junior high, there are other teachers who would ask, "How can you trust these kids?" And my response was, I could, because you if you extend trust to people, it's amazing how often they will pick up on it and return it to you. My kid, I say, if you have a person's trust, it means that you're willing to back them up as well, and support their cause, and because that's part of it. And that goes back to your sense of integrity and humility, and
There's something else that comes to mind. It's an old George Bernard Shaw quote. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And one of the things I've always enjoyed about your teaching style is your willingness to play, to be playful, to relax the learning atmosphere. And you and I have one thing in common, and that our sense of humor goes straight to cornball, but people tolerate it anyways.
yes, they do. I know that, Johnny. I had many situations where my jokes were so bad, and the entire class would groan, and then they'd crack up laughing because everyone groaned. And I said, "Success." So, yeah, Dave and I have I would almost refer to as a warped sense of pathetic humor.
Pathetic is the operative word there.
But anyway, yeah, I think a good instructor has to have a good sense of humor. I seriously do. I mean, and part of being a good sensei is being a good actor, because kids, for those, we all went to school, and we appreciated those teachers who weren't, I used to call them, I refer to them as talking heads.
Fuddy-duddies.
And I don't know if we could be a fuddy-duddy and still be a character. I mean, the teacher in the room next to me, he was 70 years old. He had been a longshoreman, and if his kids were good, he'd do a handstand on his desk at the end of class. Here's this guy, 70 years old, and he's a fuddy-duddy. The kids loved him. So I think you have to have that sense of humor. Allows you to laugh at yourself when you make mistakes too, because it does happen. And yes, there are some, I know as a martial artist sensei, there are things that you have to be dead serious about, particularly when it comes to student safety. Why'd we switch? But in any case, who'd we lose? Darren.
There was somebody named Bob, I think, that was.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah, hopefully he'll be back. But yeah, that blew my train of thought. So is there anything else we want to add to what makes a good sensei?
I definitely would like to be very brief. Last of thoughts as we are moving forward with this conversation. Throughout the years, I happen to have the privilege to teach as a professional in the civilian and in the military world. And of course, you know, my best teachers were my parents. They were both educators. My mother was a professor. My dad was a lieutenant colonel from the Panamanian military force. And I wanted to say that you have to have a balance when it comes to become a counselor, a professor, a teacher, and we have time for everything within the expectations of the theme, the subject, the topic that you are presenting to your students. Looking at respect, it is a very high quality for any human being. It comes to understand, you know, the rich and the meaningful of valuing, you know, yourself and others' principles, and that needs to be emphasized at the very early stages of the program that you are teaching. Within that, or with that being said, once again, the opportunity to have a good sense of humor, no doubt about it. So this is where I am addressing, you know, the guidelines of the curriculum, the level of enjoying the program that you are learning or teaching, and have fun. So that is something that as a person, as an individual, as a retired person from the government here in Fairfax, I'm also working with the Maryland Military Department. I learned throughout the years. So I just wanted to share my thoughts at this minute. So.
Yeah, thank you for your thoughts. I thought that was very well. I like the and Sensei, Tony and I need to bow out as soon as I finish here. But the things that Dave had mentioned and everyone else, I think we can go on for a long time with talking about the qualities of what makes a good sensei. There's a list of them, right? But the one thing that you were just mentioning that I thought was a critical and key word in your description of it was balance. And I think that really kind of brings everything together. No matter what you do and how you're doing it, you know, you have physical development, you have mental development, you have spiritual development, you have different personalities and people and what people can do and limitations of what they can do and how others do different things and do different ways. And, you know, all of these things of what a sensei has to be able to manage. And when you're talking about that, how do you have an effective one? How do you have a good sensei? What makes a good sensei? And I think that the word balance really kind of sums all of that up.
Right. I would agree with that. You know, you can, the first principal I worked under, after he chewed me out one day, which was his normal way he dealt with newer teachers. Uh, he said, you know, if you want to be a good teacher, you need to be able to walk the fence. You can't be too friendly. You cannot be overly strict, because either way, they're not going to follow you. But if you can walk the fence, if you have that balance, that Darren mentioned, that as Carlos says, you can be serious and still have fun. And if students see that you are enjoying what you are doing, that's, to me, I can even say that as a professional educator, that's 90% of the battle. Because if you,
Well, go ahead.
if the students see that you are showing them respect and you're showing them trust and you're dealing with them with a sense of integrity, they're going to go with you because they trust you. And having that trust is a tremendous responsibility. And we've all been there, and it's sometimes it's a matter of, you'll take a student under your wing for a couple of weeks or so, 3 weeks or even more, if you see they're having a problem. It just happened because in spite of us being a teacher, we also in many cases become a parent. And parents have a hard job.
Carlos and Darren, I want to jump in here for just a sec. Darren, you've got a 360-page book that I mailed to you. In fact, you have 2 copies, as a matter of fact.
True story.
It is our dojo curriculum. It's the thickest book I've written, and I titled it Balance, because of exactly what Carlos brought up and exactly what you're saying. Balance is a senior operating principle of the universe, and it just makes so many things work. The opening pages talk about all the different types of balance we experience as we go through life, and the various contraptions that we call a balance, and on and on. So wholeheartedly agree. It's interesting that is where this conversation has gone. When your life's in balance, it works, and when it's not, it doesn't. When your dojo's in balance, it works. When it's not, it doesn't, and on and on.
Okay.
Sensei, excuse 1 sec. We have to bow out to get to our sessions, but y'all have a great workshop today, and we look forward to being back next time. Yes.
Take care, Darren. Give our best to everyone.
Take care, guys.
And,
We will. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you.
See y'all soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Speaking of respect and timing, just quickly, you also have to consider punctuality. If you're constantly starting classes late, people lose interest.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, when I was a school teacher, I'd start class before the bell rang if everyone was there. I mean, the bell was irrelevant, and I'd give if I was done with the lesson, I always gave kids time to socialize the class. You can't quote ignore their needs, quote unquote. But and they went along with it.
Sensei,
I think
at our dojo,
go ahead.
At our dojo, we had a saying: "Early is on time." The idea is quite simple. There's tables to move, there's mats to clean or set up, and on and on. So we had people that knew when they got there they were going to turn on the air conditioning and have it run 15 minutes before class starts, and on and on. So that was our operative phrase: early is on time. See you next week.
Yeah, it is, especially for a sensei teacher to be on time. And sometimes I know with Seki, if you were late, because he was very traditional, you sat on the bench off the mat until you were invited on. A lot of things have changed since 1960s and 70s, but that was, you know, if you were rarely late, he might have you get on the mat right away. If you were consistently late, he might make you sit out the first hour and see if you stuck around. Just as I guess he was just trying to see your character or what your interest was.
I'll tell you what, it'd be a golden opportunity to pull out your legal pad and take notes for an hour and learn from what you're seeing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know, so punctuality is important. And he would sometimes end class late if he wasn't done with what he was trying to cover, and no one complained. Of course, his response would be, "There's the door." But anyway, I think the word balance really is the best word. If there's a balance between integrity, humility, respect, passion for teaching, that's what burns out a lot of teachers and sensei real fast. They think they can just go through stuff, and they get frustrated when the students don't pick it up right away.
Another, if I may say this, being in the 21st century, today's day, you know, the world has changed tremendously, our society. I think it is important to have a level of sensitivity for diversity and also being cultural competence. Because you will be teaching all kinds of individuals coming from all parts of the world, and having that awareness, you know, of the diversity and the cultural competence within a group, and acknowledging the fact that, you know, we are all coming from different walks, background, it makes it different.
Yeah, it does. And having taught in a high school with 52 languages spoken, and a lot of the kids being fresh into the country, you really have to pick up on, as a teacher and sensei, you have to pick up on the cultural differences, the linguistic differences. It took me, as Americans, and we if you've taught self-defense, we all taught self-defense, duh. For Americans, the space between two people is about 2 feet. That's I forget what the term is. And
Bubble.
What?
It's their bubble.
Your bubble is about 2 feet in front of you, around you. And I had to adjust to different cultures where it was, and I'm not going to pick on it here. My Armenian students would be right in my face. And it took me a while to realize that being right in your face is not a threat. Russian students would always, particularly the males, would always shake my hand when they'd come in, say, "Good morning, Mr. Kirby," etc. Some of my Hispanic kids would, "Yo, dude." Some, yeah, and it's done in a respectful manner, you know. So, I had one kid who was a gangbanger, And he got ticked off at me one day, 12th grader. He says, "Mr. Kirby, why you keep dissing me?" And I looked at him and I said, he was a problem in the class. I said, if you stop dissing yourself, other people would stop dissing you. And I don't think he was expecting that response. He didn't say anything. He just sat back in his chair. He actually got a decent grade in the class after that. Because I think it sunk in that he had to, sometimes you have your own self-image of who you are, and you have control over that image, that self-image, and maybe just what I said, because I was very direct with him and used his terminology, that it made an impact on him. But yeah, you do have to be sensitive to differences between now and 20 or 30 years ago. For those of you, some of you in California were the Menendez brothers. I don't know how many of you from other states have heard about that. They're going for a resentencing of the two. The guys must be in their 50s now, and they shot both of their parents fatally, and the evidence that they had been sexually abused was suppressed at their original trial. So now that's come out. But that's making a long story really short. So the question is, should they still have life in prison, or should they be exonerated, or should they be paroled, or what?
And if they were the other gender, that would not have been suppressed.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So, we don't know what the future will bring, but we have to be able to deal with the present and not let, how do I say it? Sometimes we can't let, as a teacher or sensei, you cannot let your own prejudices result in treating other people in a disrespectful manner. When I taught school, I enjoyed my kids, and we could talk about just about anything. And one day, I'll say this one, if you're black, it's your mama. It's a game. But it's not a game a white person can get into. Hispanics, tu madre. It's the same word, but in Spanish, but you can't, different cultures have quote unquote games that it's okay and tolerable, but if you're not in that ethnic or cultural or racial group, you do not do this. And that's a matter of being sensitive to. But anyway, what happened was one of them used a rather derogatory term for a black person. And the rest of the class jumped on this guy, basically, and verbally. But we ended up doing a really good discussion on where words came from. And it's amazing when you get to, I had a lot of Hispanics that weren't aware that the term wetback comes from the fact that when people from Mexico came across the Rio Grande, the backs of their shirts were wet. And that's why they were referred to as
Wetbacks.
Wetbacks. And some of the stuff is purely innocent, and it becomes a derogatory, understandably derogatory term. And I didn't get any complaints from parents or administrators for that one. Because if you get into a situation like that, you have to be very fair and honest with yourself and the student, and they will appreciate that. And maybe that's part of the balance, is that they see that it's, as Dave and Carl said, that's part of your integrity. Is if an issue comes up that deals with that, you have to deal with it in a respectful manner, in an open and honest manner. At least that's my opinion. It's, and this has nothing to do with jujitsu, per se. Okay, let's go on here. Dojo. What makes for a good dojo? Now there is an initial problem here. Some students go to a private dojo, which has everything in it besides the kitchen sink. And some sensei work out of YMCAs, park facilities, or sometimes you end up with being in the most non-martial arts environment. For a while, we were in a community room that was also used for childcare, and they would hang whatever the little things from the light fixtures. And unfortunately, we had to take those down every night we had class. And the city said, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "It's a safety hazard." Because I had a couple of students that were like 6 foot 15 inches, and they would knock them up. They'd do a high throw, and I mean, they'd almost hit the light fixture with it. So I said, those are a safety hazard, and with them moving around, it makes it more difficult for me to see what is going on in the class because all these distractions. And so they resolve that problem. But if you're in a community facility, you don't have all the amenities you might have in a private dojo, even if it's just 4 walls and a mat. That's still can be better than being in a YMCA facility where if you're in the big gym, you're on one half of the court and the other half is playing basketball. And you have to worry about the occasional ball that comes rolling across your mat. So anyway, what makes a good dojo? I just want to, be aware of these two extreme situations.
Well, I'd say you want to try to have it as safe an environment as possible. Pick up obstacles off the floor, make sure that lighting and electrical is in a safe situation so people don't trip over, we'll say, extension cords or.
Okay, so you're saying safety, yeah, and that's number one in my book. And the city knows that after how long have I been like 26, 96, almost 30 years. They know that safety is my number one concern. And the only time I've gotten rid of students, which has been 2 times, has been that they just could not follow the, we have rules for how the classes run. And if you are a sensei, and I learned this as a teacher, the more rules you have, the more time you spend enforcing them. And so I have, I think, 10 or 12 rules, and that's it. And the students follow, safety has to be your number one concern because that goes back to your sense of integrity and your sense of balance. You want your students to be able to walk out of your dojo at the end of class in one piece. So safety, anything else. And you don't need to make it a big deal.
As a sensei, I was always thankful for diversity in our class. We opened up with announcements and we'd go into stretching. And while we were stretching, some of the visitors or the new students would be coming upstairs a few minutes late. They had a hard time parking or whatever. And the first time I would meet them or see them would be when they came upstairs during our stretches. And when it was someone from another culture, that especially a culture we didn't already have in our dojo, it was like, yes, awesome. Couldn't wait to
Yeah.
fold them in, because it's rich when when your dojo's a melting pot.
Yes, it is. And you and the students end up learning things you can't even attempt to teach.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would, I'll go back to teaching. I teach regular classes in high school and junior high and honors classes. And if I had a kid who was doing really reasonably well in a regular level class, getting a B or an A, I'd say to him, I'd like you in my honors class next semester. And unless you totally screw up, I'll guarantee you a B. Because you're probably doing about that level of work now in this regular class. And counselors will object. And I'd get them in anyway, and they do well. So, you know, you need this diversity. It really, simply for the student's own sense of integrity. We keep going back to this word, don't we? You know, you have to, and trust that they will do well, and belief in them. And we all, I think we all as sensei, we have to believe in our students. Otherwise, why are we doing what we're doing? So, okay. How about formalities? And we got consistent expectations of students and sensei. Formalities, uniform or appropriate clothing. Who's
Speaking about the dojo, it's a huge way of looking at the subject. Most definitely, safety will be one of my first stop to address. And at the same time, there have to be a way of keeping in mind a guideline of what to expect when students are being taught within the environmental setting. And this is where, you know, we see the level of formality. How do you present yourself? How do you address yourself to others, to the instructor? If you have visitors, if you have a graduation, how are you presenting yourself when you are wearing a uniform? So specific details that need to be addressed while we are in the dojo, because this is also falls into the belief of the philosophy and what to expect while we are teaching and dealing with the students.
Yes, I agree with you. I think if I walk into a dojo and I see all the students wearing the same uniform, that shows respect for the dojo, for the sensei, even for the other students. And if there is a consistent uniform, that uniform in and of itself builds a certain sense of belonging. And that's what some students are striving for by being, you know, wearing quote unquote a uniform. It gives them a sense of belonging. I mean, that also plays out with, it plays out with gangs, it plays out in the military, it plays out in the medical profession. What color coats are most medical people wearing in a hospital? No one's going to answer?
White.
White. uh,
Oh,
uh, what color are most tuxedos?
Black.
Black.
Black. I mean, we have a whole series of, I say, different quote unquote uniforms. Hate to look at it that way, but I've walked into some dojo where they may be wearing jeans, but everybody's wearing the same T-shirt. I mean, at least it's a uniform. It's cheaper than a gi.
Yeah.
In some communities, the gis are expensive. I mean, when I was back in the 60s, you could get a really nice Japanese made judo gi for maybe $20.
Wow.
$20. And now you're up into I won't tell you what wholesale is not the same as retail. If you're a sensei, one thing you do need to do in your state is get a resale number. Because then you can buy this stuff wholesale. And then you can charge whatever you want for the students, but just because we're a nonprofit organization, we usually charge for, we don't charge for belts because belts are like wholesale, they're like $2-3 a piece. If you're buying 10 or 15 at a time, that's part of the thing too. But I like to see all my students in judo gi. I say it's a safety factor, because they're not worried about having their clothing torn. I tell them if your gi tears in the first year, I'll buy the replacement. And that's never. I've only had one gi tear in 57 years, and the company replaced it for free because the seam gave out. And I didn't. Yes, I just said, this is a problem. They said, we'll send you a new gi. But having, how you say it, as long as you as a sensei need to have consistency. You need to be able to change if change is necessary. Like for years, I mean, ever since we've been with the park department, after the official session is over, we just kept on going. There might be a 2 to 4 week break between sessions with the parks department. And I guess someone, for whatever reason, has now decided we can't do that, which has not made any, they said, well, we may need to do repairs. I said, well, in 1996, in 38 years, we've kept going through intercessions, and we've only had one time where we've been asked to cancel class in an intercession due to a repair or anything else. I said, and my students understand that. So no one's really happy about having a 2 to 4 week break. Now, in my own self-interest, the other reason I don't want the 2 to 4 week break is because maybe some of the students will find something else to do. If they're coming to class, yes, it's a certain amount of self-interest, but you want them to have consistent training. I mean, I can be very philosophical about this, but I want them to be in class. I want them to progress. I'd love for them all to become black belts. I'd love for all of them to become sensei someday and teach somewhere. The reality is that doesn't happen, but I can at least dream. And on occasion, a student takes off and becomes a sensei. But but I think it all comes down to what they see in the dojo, and if they like if a student likes what they see in a dojo, well, it's like any adult. If you like what you see in a new house, in a car, in a person you've just met, you're going to want to develop that relationship. And I know I'm getting off track here, so I better shut up.
But it is important what you just said. You want the students to be consistent with your teaching, and most of all, you want them to come back.
Yeah, I mean,
you want them to return and make them feel that they are safe where they are and that they feel comfortable with you.
yes. I mean, this goes back to being a good sensei too. I mean, it's like, you know, you're like, the best thing I can equate it to, for those of you who've been parents, is it's like being a parent. You want your kids to succeed. You want them to do well. You want them to have a better life than you had. My parents were immigrants. They worked their butts off. All four of us went to college. They thought I was going to, because my high school grades were so lousy, they thought I was going to become a gardener. Because I liked yard work and still like it. It's very relaxing for me. But they thought I'd become a gardener. And that didn't happen. But I said back to her, I said, you know, I said, the name George refers to being a farmer. And if I'm a teacher, if we're teachers, we're farmers. And they kind of sat there for a moment, because aren't we gardening our students to become something?
Yeah, raising a new crop.
And you know, so it's like Dave, you know, those 5 oak trees. Did you nurture them from being little puppies?
No, somebody else did centuries ago.
Okay. But
So
you
if
know,
I could point something else out, in having a good dojo, I would say that you need to have someone designated to meet and greet any visitors that come in.
okay.
I've actually sat into 2 dojo here locally, and through the whole period of time, not one person came to me and said, "Who are you? What are you interested in? Do you do martial arts?" Nothing. And I turned around after an hour and some odd minutes, and I walked out, and I just didn't go back.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, if someone who's not in the dojo comes in, you know, I'll personally welcome them and say they'll usually, their first question is, "Can I come in and watch?" And I say, "Sure. You know, this is a park program. You can come in and watch." And I'll have a student go get a chair for them, because we normally don't have chairs out. Some parents come and watch on a regular basis. They're more than welcome, you know, and I'll usually ask at the end, do you have any end of class, do you have any questions? You know, you have to me, that's just decency or common courtesy. And yeah, I mean, as you said, Tony, I've gone into some dojo and you're ignored more than the cockroach on the wall. For lack of a better phrase. You know, you come in, you sit, no one says anything to you, and then you get up and leave. And it's a very I say, you and your students see this, and they learn their behavior from you setting the example.
Right. Now I have I use cane regularly now. It helps me when I feel a little unsteady. But of course, everyone knows I love canes anyways. I love working with cane techniques or any kind of a stick technique. But to discount someone who walks into a dojo because they've got a cane, he's too old to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, that cane is an asset.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, I used to have one of my black belts, Dan Stone. He developed a whole series of, and I wish, we had camcorders back then and smartphones and all that stuff. He came up with a whole series of techniques that older people with walkers and being in wheelchairs could use. Walkers are dangerous weapons.
He was one of the brothers, wasn't he? Didn't he have a brother?
No, he did not. That was I know who you're talking about. They would be back in the 60s. They both went in, I think they both went into the what do you call it, Air Force Academy. Eventually I'll think of their names. Mullock brothers.
Yes.
And they both became black belts and ventured off into the real world. But no, no, he wasn't. But just because a person one of the nice things about traditional jiu-jitsu is that just because a person has a physical handicap, it doesn't mean they can't learn parts of the art. And to me, that's a real asset. There are techniques at age 80 I would never attempt to do if I had to defend myself. I know they will not work without putting my safety at risk beyond the actual attack situation. But there are others I can use. And I've had a number of injuries where I've had to change how I teach. What you might do, and how many, I know, Dave, you're left-handed, right?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else left-handed? Tony?
I am.
Okay. Left-handed people have an advantage in the martial arts because two reasons. One, it's our natural side. So when sensei says, okay, we're going to do techniques left-handed tonight, all these right-handed people are at a total loss. And the other reason is because we live in a right-handed world, left-handed people have had to learn how to do things with their right hand. Okay, and so we're used to the other side, and that gives in a street situation, a left-handed person has an advantage, and if you're a martial artist, you have a definite advantage. Because once the sensei says, okay, we're going to do this from the left side. Excuse me. For you, it's a no-brainer almost. And whereas the right-handed person is trying to figure out what to do with their left hand, so it's and what are we, 10 to 15% of the population? But in any case, I think, see, what were you saying? You were saying, Tony, you were saying, what were you saying before? I lost my train of thought.
I'm lost too now.
We got two lost souls. Anyway.
I was going to just toss something out to Tony.
Yeah.
And the times I've visited other dojos, sometimes I've been invited by an upper belt to just come watch, listen, learn. And so I felt welcome in those dojos. Sometimes when I've had a situation like that, the head sensei didn't know I was coming, even though a brown belt invited me, and felt threatened, even though I was wearing a black gi with a white belt. I always wear a white belt visiting a dojo to show respect and deference. It doesn't matter what my rank is. When I'm visiting their dojo, I'm a white belt.
Mhm.
and he was still intimidated. And I ended up writing a follow-up thank you letter saying I enjoyed what I learned, specifics about how the class was run that I could compliment him on, and thanked him for the opportunity. I never heard back, but I figured the least I can do is just kind of be kind about it and take away whatever threat he was feeling. But Tony, I was going to make a suggestion. When you want to go visit a dojo, is to go visit off hours when leadership might be there, or make a phone call and find out if you can meet with the head sensei before you visit the dojo, and then sit down, have a chat, knock banter out, share materials you got, show them how lethal you are with your cane. And he may bring you in as a guest sensei to do a cane class, and everybody's happy, and you're happy. And so, in other words, they're not being receptive to you, but the flip side is you find a way to enter their world,
Right.
in perhaps a creative way.
No, the first time it happened to me, I was at a card and comic shop, and I just happened to notice the dojo through the corner of my eye. So I walked on over, and they were out there. They had the garage door open, and they're out on the mats having a good old time. It had about 10, 15 people in there. I walked in, I waited, I waited, I waited. I finally ended up taking a chair, and I waited. I enjoyed watching the class. The instructor seemed to be very talented. The students seemed to be very respectful. But at the end of the class, no one ever came by to talk to me. So I turned around and walked out, somewhat disappointed.
Yeah. I think if you're going, and Dave, just there are some martial art group where after black belts you go to white belt, and
Yes.
sometimes it's a double wide white belt, and that means you're purer than a black belt. or whatever, but that does occur sometimes. I've always made it a practice, if I'm invited to, and I usually will not visit a dojo unless I'm invited. I will always carry, well, I have obviously my gi. I don't bring the gi bag in with me, because again, it can be seen as a sign of intimidation. If the sensei asks me, would you like to come on the mat? I mean, if I have someone who's a black belt in a different martial art, and I know they're coming to class, I'll invite them on the mat. And then the next question usually that I would ask is, would you prefer that I wear a white belt, or may I wear my rank belt? And you leave that up to the sensei of the dojo. And almost every time they'll say, wear your rank belt. We know it's in a different martial art, but it's a matter of respect. So we're going back to respect again, integrity, humility. So by being humble, you get respect. So it's just something I've always told my students: if you visit another dojo, where's your white belt that came with your gi? That belongs in your gi bag, or rolled up in your gi. And don't bring the gi in with you unless, because you can always go out to the car or what have you, hopefully, unless you've just been left there, and get it. And it's a matter of showing respect to the sensei and the dojo. And I recently had a student from a Brazilian, he was MMA, and he got upset with me via email that a student who had not been there longer, he had been there longer than another student, but that student got a promotion and he didn't. And I said, Aries, I can see the roll of your eyes, and it's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, sensei.
I do a lot. I do a lot on body language. So I emailed back to him. I said, a rank is not based on how long you've been here, but how well you do what you're required, how well you
Yeah.
perform on the skills that are required of you.
Yeah.
I have how do you say it? A Aikido dojo in Southern California that has all their, I think all their black belts have now signed up for the Yunanshikai, and they're all going through the belt exams. And the one that started it all, because I have no time in grade requirement below black belt, in about 2 months, he's gotten up to, I think, 3rd Q. Now that's because of he's a 4th dan in whatever style of Aikido. And apparently he has a broad enough background. He is doing beautifully. But now he's got to shift gears because the requirements for brown belt are a little on the different side from the lower ranks. Because now he's got to know the terminology in Japanese. And he's got to be able to do techniques at random. And there are all these, I say it's more up here than it is, being doing the actual techniques. But he's doing very well.
I'd say on some level, I'd be willing to bet the student that asked that question knew the answer. He was just belly aching.
Yeah, well,
remember Antonio Ramon?
Yeah.
The guy as a purple belt was just a freak, a freak of nature when it came to being a natural at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, there are some people who are just natural at certain martial arts. Yes.
Yeah, everybody got a different learning rate.
Yeah.
Sensei, off topic a little bit. I'm wondering how I've been in this for decades, the martial arts, and I've never heard about the wide white belt beyond black belt. This is like brand new to me.
Yeah, I've run across it maybe twice.
Okay, so it's fairly rare.
That would probably be back in the 80s when I went to some AAU conferences or something like that, and there'd be this ancient person. I'm talking a very senior citizen who he'd be in his gi, he'd have the double white belt, and everybody respected him, and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's
Didn't Kano do that?
what?
I think Kano
No.
did that.
I don't know.
If I may, Sensei,
Just
yeah, go ahead.
Just really, maybe it comes down to you can't judge a belt by its color. Anyway, okay, go ahead, Aris.
No, I just want to say to Tony that the belt normally the rationale behind that is that you start with a white belt, but you don't wash the belts. Okay, so as you progress to the ranks, it gets dirtier and dirtier, and then to a point it's now brown belt. That means you've been a while, and then it turns to black. That means you've been there really for quite so long. So that's the idea why the belt turns to some colorful things, as we call it. That's how I was taught. Basically, I was taught in Japan, though. So yeah, that's why.
Yes,
That's why it's that going to white means that the black belt washed his obi or his belt.
I always heard that the black belt got so dirty, but then eventually it started fraying, and then the white string started showing again. And that got that old because you see people that have their belts and they're ancient. You're like, I'm not going to mess with that person.
What they do is actually, Jim, is that they actually wash it
well,
to make it look like it's ancient. So it's old. It's
behind the car too.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
The other way you can make a belt look old, and you said frayed, is you hold the belt by its edge and you get a razor blade and scrape. Just don't cut. You scrape it along, and it frays the threads along the edge of the belt. And that you've been a black belt for how many years? And there are ways.
Sensei, what they do now is that not on the belt, but on the ears to have the cauliflower ears. So
Yeah.
they use towel to do that to make it look like they've been there for a while.
It's amazing how you can fake, for lack of a better phrase, fake stuff.
But one of the things that's interesting is white and black are considered opposite colors. And the fact of the matter is that neither one is considered a color.
They're neutrals.
That's true.
We have good philosophical discussion.
Sorry, I'm just, my brain's kind of off on tangent.
I say, how many of you know Jean Lavelle or have heard of Jean Lavelle?
Not here.
Oh, you haven't. Look him up on the internet. He wears a pink judo gi. And nobody asks him, how did it get pink? And he wears it with pride, you know, and the only thing I can think of was maybe it got washed with a
Red.
colored belt or something like that. Because I think on one or two occasions I've had a parent throw their kid's belt in with their gi, and then it comes out green, you know, slight hint of green or other color, and it's very embarrassing for the kid, and of course the parents are really upset. But I tell my kid, you do not wash your belt, because if you, to continue with Aries theme, if you wash your belt, you're washing out your knowledge and experience. See, that's a good explanation for why I was never washed. But see, all this stuff is I say part of the mythical history of the martial arts, I think. But there is some credibility to it. It's like Aikido, if you're wearing it, and we'll do this if we do demos, formal demo, the black belts will wear hakama. And you know, people will ask, what's hakama? And I said, well, first of all, we don't want to confuse it with jicama, which is a vegetable. But with the hakama, you can't. Jicama and hakama. There's the only difference is the jicama, I think, has 2 C's in it, and hakama has a K instead of the 1 or 2 C's. But the other thing is, wearing the hakama, students cannot see the footwork. It looks like, that's why it looks like Aikido people are floating around. For those of you who ever saw the movie, horribly bad movie, Mars Attacks.
That's an awesome movie.
It's an awesome movie. I used to show it the last week in high school to my seniors, and they would just groan. But if you haven't seen Mars Attacks, you should get that, you know, download it from somewhere or watch it on TV. It is horribly bad, and but it's a lot of fun. But the Martians would kind of like float around like Aikido people. You couldn't see where their feet were going. But yeah, that's what makes it. It creates you that part of creating the illusion. Because in the martial arts, we work a lot on illusion as well. So let's see. We need to get back to the dojo.
I would like to say this, if I may say what Tony said earlier about greeting, feeling welcome, how to approach, making contacts, and also what David shared with us, you know, reaching out for administrators, senior leaders, allowing them to know that you are coming. But I have a way of, I guess, when it comes to people, I am people oriented. For many years, that's my personality. I don't get intimidated very easy by others. one of the things that I learned throughout the years within my career is to, if you don't approach me, then I will approach you. As simple as that. If you don't want to have contact or eye contact with me, then I will have the eye contact with you and I will reach out. I don't have no problem with that. And sometimes that's what it takes today's days. You know, the way our society is, how sometimes people are maybe misunderstanding messages coming from all different walks. You have to become very assertive in that perspective. So this is me when it comes to people in general. And also, now that we are speaking about colors, belt, for me, when I started martial arts, you know, I started with no belt. And today's day, you know, carrying my second degree in Taekwondo, competing and performing at a national and international level, learning the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, I carry my own way of thinking. You know, I never stop learning, no matter what. You know, I have a way of perceiving the philosophy is that I know for a fact every time when I'm walking into a dojo or into a classroom, you know, where they're teaching martial art, there's always enough space for me to excel my ability and my skills. And why is that? If I don't know at all, the minute I know at all, I feel uncomfortable. So,
I'll throw something else out here, Tony. If you look at our panel today, Aris is the only one that has color in his hair. And the rest of us have an advantage over Aris that he doesn't know yet. And that is that as you're elderly, you're able to become invisible and also more easily ignored. So
From dust to dust.
yes. So just one of those things. And some people view that as an advantage. I do have some of my students, both in dojo and also in my independent teaching, where I've got them, especially the young ones, I convince them that I dye my hair gray so that I can appear more distinguished than I actually am. But anyways, Aris, your time's coming. It's just you're going to have to wait a few decades, buddy.
Dave, if you're saying that our hair disappears, that indicates we're becoming invisible. Does it work from the hairline down?
I'm just not talking about disappearing. I'm just talking about gray, just having gray hair. All of a sudden, you know, you can walk through a mall and nobody gives you a single look, let alone a second look. You're just invisible.
Visible.
Oh wow, the invisible sensei.
I think, Carlos, I think one thing you said is extremely important, and that is, as long as you have an open mind and are willing to learn, that's, to me, that's one of the keys of staying young. If you're a martial artist and you know everything, and there's a saying, if you claim to know everything, you really know nothing.
Right.
Something like that, you know. And I think that's so true. You know, I learn different ways of doing techniques. If I go to a seminar, if I don't learn a new technique or a different way of doing something, I consider my being there a failure.
Mm.
And I can't think of a single occasion where I've gone to someone else's dojo or even running a seminar someplace and not picking up at least one or two new techniques or different ways of doing them. And there are, and I can speak only for Jiu-Jitsu, there are very few techniques that can only be done one way. And what works well for one person may not work well for another, and a variation of that technique may work better for them. I've because when I taught jujitsu in the junior high school, because my kids knew that I ran how do you say, they refer to it as a fairly laid back classroom. But they accomplished a lot. They knew that if there was a better way of doing something, they could tell me about it and suggest I try, and I'd try things. For example, when I got to the high school, I used to have my kids write an essay every few weeks. I'd say, I don't care what the topic is, take a position and support it.
Mm.
And then I'd be looking for certain things in their essays. I mean, it's a lot easier to read 140 essays on different topics than 140 essays on why does the grass grow green. But then they said, Mr. So-and-so, who is an English teacher, has a page, an evaluation page. And what he does is he gives that, what you do, instead of turning your essay into the teacher, you give it to another student to pre-evaluate, to make sure everything is structured, as much as possible that they can do structurally correct, has the things you're looking for. And then you give it back to the student. And the student can do a rewrite of the essay. And then at that point, I get it. 2 grades. And so most of the issues are taken, and the kids as a result get good grades. And the teacher was actually upset that I was borrowing their idea. And I had no problems giving that teacher credit for it. But the only thing that some of the kids did not like was, like, if they said this essay looks great and then I get it and it's garbage, the kid who was doing the evaluating would get the same grade that the person who wrote the essay. And I'd always give the kid that wrote the essay a chance to rewrite the essay if it was, if they didn't like their B grade and wanted to get up to an A, fine, rewrite your essay, fix it, turn it back in, I'll look at it again. But the kid who did the lousy evaluation got stuck with the lousy grade. And they learned very fast that they needed to be accountable to each other, not just to me, but to each other as students. And that engendered a lot of mutual respect among the kids.
Hey, Sensei.
Especially, one more thing, especially since in many cases, they had to exchange your papers with someone from a different culture.
That's a good idea.
And that it sure breaks down cultural barriers.
Yeah, quickly. I just wanted to point out something else among our group here. I suspect there may be a soothsayer amongst us, because we've all shared our knowledge freely, and there's one among us, Jim Bobek, who is listening, and he knows what we know, but we don't know what he knows. My experience is that someone like Jim perhaps is a soothsayer who knows more than his prayers and might be willing to share in the last 5 minutes what he's observed and what he can bring to our discussion. Good morning, Jim.
Well, good morning. I apologize for cutting out in the middle. I have no idea what happened to my laptop. It just froze up, so I switched the phone. I have to be as respectful as possible, Sensei Clark, but I believe you're mistaken. But I definitely live by the motto: it is better to keep your mouth shut and let people think you're a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. But I am very much enjoy martial arts. I've been studying too long. I got the rank up here to prove it. But my background is I studied Ishinryu karate since '79. I think I started. And I've also do Iaido Kendo, or my main martial arts. I'm interested in all martial arts. I done some other grappling, and I've done the Japanese tea ceremony for a few years. I've been doing it a long time. Not in any way an expert in any way at all. I've just been hanging around forever. I'll just say that. but I do like to listen. I do like to be a part of discussions. But I'm definitely more of a quiet listen because, yeah, it just you learn a lot. I very like learning, just like Carlos was saying. I love to go and learn. George said, I just enjoy being somewhere and to learn something new. You can always learn something new, and I really appreciate that. But as far as the soothsayer, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. But I do as far as belt rank. If you want a black belt, my first requirement for EIDO was to pick up a black hakama with a black belt. So there you go. I had my black belt the first day. You didn't use belt color as rank. So you just got certificates, which was actually funny because you didn't remember what rank you were. You always had to go back and look at a piece of paper to see exactly where you were in the ranking. But yeah, we didn't use color belts in EIDO. It just was a black belt because it matched the hakama, the black obi.
Just to close this one thing, since you brought up Hakama, I have seen people have arguments over how the Hakama is tied, and that doesn't even include the front formal knot. And then one occasion, someone showed up with a Hakama that rather than it was done with Velcro.
I've seen those belts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the Hakama itself was done, rather than tying the knots to secure the Hakama, they used Velcro. And well, that's technology.
I like that.
But anyway, I think we're
Thank you,
gonna
Bob.
leave it here.
Thanks for letting us pick on you.
Pardon?
I said, thank you, Bob. Thanks for letting us pick on you.
That's okay. I think we're going to end at this point, and I want to thank you for a really good session today. I know I may have mentioned that there wouldn't be. I confused November and December because if you look at the Budoshin online, it says there's a Zoom meeting on the 2nd and the 19th. Are you okay with having another Zoom meeting on November 19th?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be the 16th?
Yes, you're right. The 16th. I'm sorry. The 16th.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So we'll be, because I think December, having that second one in the middle of the month, too many people are looking for Santa Claus or out shopping or frantically or or the Christmas decorations, or there are other priorities in life in December.
It's actually a good time to go to Walt Disney World because the people are out Christmas shopping, and so Disney World is not quite as crowded.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like I prefer to go to Costco on Tuesday mornings. I don't know why. It's not crowded. It's almost empty on Tuesday mornings. I don't know if you know what Costco is, but it's
Sam's on steroids.
Yeah, and my daughter.
some steroids. Yeah.
That's what?
Some steroids. Yeah, it's a good one.
By the way, my daughter Kimberly is in Walt Disney World this weekend. She's doing 2 marathons there.
Oh,
Good for her.
So
wow.
she's into that, and she's going with, I guess, several other people. So anyway, want to thank you. Our next session will be on the 19th. And the first question, I'll give you the first question so you can think about it. And I'll give you 2 topics. If you're teaching your martial art to others, what has teaching taught you? And the second one is, what responsibilities does a sensei have to his students beyond teaching the physical aspects of the art? And I think we touched on some of that today. So I don't know if we will be reinventing the wheel, but we'll make that decision on the 16th.
Yeah.
So in any case, I want to thank all of you. With luck, this number 81 should be on YouTube. I would hope ideally would be by this evening. but it definitely will be on by tomorrow afternoon. And so you can go to YouTube, just put in Budoshin Jujitsu episode 81 and it'll find it for you. So in any case, and then you get all your friends together and you can sign autographs or something.
I owe you a commission if I get famous.
No, you don't owe me. No, you don't owe me a commission. No.
Just a royalty, Sensei. Just a royalty.
Just no. I don't even take a royalty. Anyway,
Thank you all. Appreciate what you shared.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
have a good
Thank
weekend.
Have a nice
Take
day.
care, everyone.
Carlos,
Thank you.
Jim, and ours. Hope to see you again soon. And
Will do, Sensei.
Tony, it's good to see you again. And Dave, have a good weekend. Stay away from the hurricanes.
Yes, sir.
Hey guys, thank you
care
very
all.
much for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye now.
Bye-bye,
Take care.
Carlos. Bye. Bye.